Welcome to Tackett's House of Horsepower. It's me, Steve Tackett, and we're gonna keep going on this little 65. You know what it needs? A transmission. I don't have a transmission yet, but what else we need is spark. So let's work on that, okay? Let's work on what I can work on, you know? Look at this thing. I mean, it's come a long way. I mean, considering what it looked like when I got it, this side looks pretty good. You know, look at that thing. It looks kind of tough. You know, look, you got your header sticking down there, right? It's hanging a little low because the transmission's not in it, so the engine's kind of whatever. So that's going to be tucked up a little tighter. You know, when the transmission's, just go with it, okay? Just go with it. But this side looks good, except for the purple tint. Yeah, we'll scrape all that tint off. Hood and everything else, you saw that video, hopefully, last video. It's looking pretty good. All right. This side is a little rough. Especially the patch on the roof. I don't understand what happened there. But if it wasn't for that patch, man, this car would be really nice. So, but like I said, we need a transmission. I don't have it. I do want to finish up some of the dash and wiring, and we need to get that red box down there attached to something and wired, and a coil pass through, you know, bulkhead up on the firewall. I'm gonna do all that, and we're gonna hide it. You know what I mean? Hide it where the old heater box was. We're gonna put all that stuff up in there and hide it. So the only thing you're gonna see is the bulkhead passing through the firewall. That's it. So let's get started. We gotta let the crybabies out. I only let them out in the mornings now because it gets pretty hot in here. And you know, we got Meathead Oliver and Princess Scout over here. I know, it gets too hot. I don't know what's going on with my hood. It seems like the hood was underwater or something. There's like dirt and twigs and leaves and I don't know what else is. Everything is falling out of the hood. Every time I shut it or open it, it just dumps everywhere. So I hope we need to clean that out because this is pretty bad. All right, so the only thing I want to see when we're done is this guy. We're gonna put a pass through somewhere up in this general area, somewhere around there. Run those wires in, run the starter wires down to the starter. We're gonna clean all this up. We'll have this guy sticking out right about there somewhere. And then we'll run a coil wire whoop, down there. And that's it. I don't wanna see nothing else. I don't wanna see bolts and nuts. Nothing poking through the firewall at all. So, look at that. This door, look. Really? This car is really nice. Anyway, we're gonna put a MSD box and a coil and all the electrical stuff up here on a plate. And I'm gonna weld some bolts to the floor. And then we'll make a plate to sit on those bolts. And then we'll mount everything to the plate so it's removable so we can work on it. And you won't be able to see nothing poking through the firewall. That's the goal. So let me get all my stuff together. I need to drag the welder out. It's buried. you know, it's got a game of Tetris every time I want to work on something. So I'll pull all that out and we'll start mocking this up. All right, first thing I did was get myself some space to work and go ahead and vacuum under here. So I'm not laying under here in a big old pile of junk. So now I think the smart thing to do would be to put my bulkhead in. I need to know where the bulkhead is going to stick through, so then I know where to put my metal plate. You know what I mean? You don't want to build the plate first and then jam a hole through it for the bulkhead. So I don't know. Let's do that bulkhead first. We need to knock a big hole somewhere, and then I can kind of lay things out where it's going to go. You know what I mean? All right. So this is just your average everyday coil wire bulkhead pass through, whatever you want to call it. Part number is 8211. And basically all you got to do is poke a big hole and screw it in somewhere, I don't know, right around here. Be good. And you want to do this if you're going to pass a coil wire through sheet metal. You know, you want to do something like this. That way it can't chafe or get caught up, or, you know what I mean, ground out on the metal. So let me mark it and start drilling, and then we'll move on to under the dash and lay underneath there the rest of the day. You just have to punch a small hole in the firewall, okay? Nothing crazy, just a small one. Without ripping your drill out of your hands. There you go. Just a small one. Right about there. Perfect. They do give you a little diagram there. It shows you exactly what you need to do. All right, a couple sheet metal screws later, and we got ourselves a pass-through right there. So, it's, you know, one less thing on the list. Okay, here's what I'm thinking. What if, see there, we got our coil wire pass through on this side. Now what if I take some bolts, you know, and I just tack weld them. Let me get under here. I'll tack weld 4 bolts, 1, 2, 3, 4 around, you know, just random. Put 4 bolts right here, and I weld them on there, okay, and then I cut out a piece of sheet metal, you know, and then I drill some holes, and I can mount the sheet metal plate to these bolts, you know, and then I can remove it when I want to. It'd be removable, and I can add things and subtract things to it and do whatever I want to it. Put relays or nitrous solenoids, or relays for the nitrous solenoids or whatever. Anything I want to add to it. Mount a coil up here, put my MSD box over here, you know, and it would be removable if I need to work on it or add things to it or change it, you know, and then nothing would go through the firewall. So you won't have to drill any holes. So the firewall stays nice and smooth, right? The firewall stays nice and smooth. You don't have to drill holes, and you won't really see it. You know what I mean? That's what I'm thinking. All right, basically, all I'm trying to do here is weld some bolts to the floor to use as mounting bolts for that plate. You know what I mean? just like that. I'll get 4 of these in here and then start making my plate. I'll make a template out of cardboard first and then kind of lay it out where it's going to be, mark my holes, and you know, it's always easier to work with a piece of cardboard, get it how you want it, and then I'll cut out a piece of sheet metal. But anyway, that's what I'm doing. Alright, so now I got 4 bolts up here. Now I'm going to come in here and make a plate that's going to sit on those bolts. And that's what I'm going to mount everything to. Yeah. Let me get a piece of cardboard and I'll start mocking it up. Alright. Piece of cardboard will work. Looks like it'll go just about right there. Now let me cut that out of sheet metal. Alright, we got it all cut out. Now I just gotta drill some holes and then we'll make sure it fits. It's a little bit overkill, kind of thick, but that's alright. I don't want it to vibrate. So let's drill some holes in it and then make sure it fits. Alright, so basically this is what we got. And there's a gap. The thickness of the head of the bolt, right? You got a gap behind the plate. So that's what I want. So now when I mount my coils and my MSD box and relays or anything I mount on here, I'm gonna drill holes and I'll put the head of the screws coming in from the backside. So everything on the firewall is gonna stay flush. See what I mean? So the thickness, I want that thickness behind the plate. Does that make sense? Anyways, I'll put a couple washers and some nuts. We should also spray paint this just to clean it up so it can't rust. I need to lay out how I want my coil and my MSD box, and I'll lay everything out, mark it and drill it, and we'll paint it and make it nice and pretty and see if we can't get all this mounted up today. Okay, I know this is gonna sound shocking, but I'm reusing a bunch of old crap. It's not crap, it's old though. I had this coil and this box was the original setup in my blue wagon when I first built it back in 1998. So it was in the car for a long time. And eventually got upgraded to a 6AL and all that and different coil and whatever. So I just take this stuff and I throw it in my cabinet over here. And then one day, like today, I pull it out and I go, I wonder if I could use this stuff. So here we go. Now, the whole purpose of doing this is this thing, I want to be able to hook everything up to like a bulkhead like this. And then if I want to, later on, if I want to add relays, for trans brake or nitrous arming relays or, line lock, any kind of relays I need to add, boom, I can add them right there. If I ever want to upgrade to a 6AL or something box, or if I want to change the coil, all I have to do is unhook a couple wires, screw a couple nuts off, boom, the whole thing comes out, wham. And I can just swap out whatever I want to swap out, upgrade it, add relays, whatever I need to do. And I can just, 2 minutes, hook a couple wires, a couple nuts, pull the whole thing out, change whatever I want to change or upgrade whatever I want to upgrade, bolt it back in the car, hook a couple wires up, and we're off and running. See what I mean? So I want this to be serviceable. I want this to be upgradable. I want this to be easily work-onable. Is that a word? Work-onable. But you get the idea. Hopefully this is starting to make sense now. So basically here we go. I'm putting it together right now with a bunch of used stuff I had sitting in the shed. or in the cabinet. So, you know, it's recycle, reduce, reuse type of thing, you know? You never know. And then when I upgrade this one, I'll save this stuff for another cool project, you know what I mean? We'll just keep on, it's like a trickle down effect. Okay, I got it all drilled, at least for now. This stuff I want to mount today. So I think I'm gonna give it a coat of paint, and then we'll mount everything permanent, and we'll start running the wires. All right, there we go. A little bit of magic and bolted it all together. Only thing left to do is wire it up and then mount it in the car. All right, I think I got the pre-wiring part done for this side. Well, take a look. That'll be 12 volt constant. That'll be your big wire coming from direct battery voltage. Those 4 bolts that are welded to the floor right now, they'll make an excellent ground. So I'm gonna use that as a ground, that 1 bolt right there. Then over here, the green wire, that's my tack signal. So that's gonna be tachometer, that's gonna go up to the tack. Then this red wire is gonna be keyed switched. That's the pink wire. So my pink wire is gonna go there. It's gonna switch on and off the box. It's also gonna have a jumper, comes down, and these bottom 3 are gonna go out to the distributor. So I wanna show you what I'm doing with that. Okay, so some of you probably noticed that I like to use these Comp 9000s. I have a few of them, so I'm using them. And if you were around in the 90s, early 2000s, the Comp 9000 and the Unilite, and I don't know, there was a couple of distributors that used those little photo eye, the little optic photo eye looking module, and they're excellent distributors, but they got kind of a bad reputation, you know, for burning up those modules, and they're not cheap. And anyways, they use this 3-wire plug. One is ground, one is 12 volt switched, and one is signal, right? Pretty simple. But the issue with the modules, these distributors are awesome. You can pick them up pretty cheap. These Comp 9000s, Unilites. Anyways, you can pick them up eBay, Swap Meet, whatever. You can get them pretty cheap. But a lot of guys are like, no, they're junk. Well, hold on. There's a way to fix it. So, get you one of these. This is part number 29371. This is basically a filter for dirty voltage. So in a 12 volt car, you have a lot of things that can make, you know, what we would call dirty voltage. The alternator is the biggest culprit, okay? Starter, anything with windings and brushes, spinning, motors, anything with a motor on it with brushes is gonna make a noisy electrical system while it's in operation. You know, when the brushes are in there spinning and the motor's little sparking going on in there, that's gonna make a noisy electrical system. If you had a oscilloscope and you were looking at the ignition or the 12 volt system and you turn something on, or the alternator starts spinning, you'll see noise. It'll be real noisy. The oscilloscope will go crazy. Well, those little modules in the distributor, they're pretty sensitive, so they don't like that. So they came up with this, right? You just plug it in line, okay? And it'll take care of that noisy electrical system problem, and that module will thank you for it, and it'll last forever and ever and ever, and you'll love it. I got a little 29349. Is that the same number? No, 29349. I got an extension harness. So what I'll do is I'm gonna wire these 3 wires down here, come through the floor, go to these 3 points, right? And then go out the firewall somewhere, put this on there, right? And I'm gonna plug this guy into that plug right there. And it's gonna work great, hopefully. So pretty much that's how it's all gonna work. Only thing left to do now is mount it in there. Okay, it's in there. You just can't see it too good because it's kind of dark in here. But I'll show you tomorrow. I gotta clean up my mess and put everything away because I'm about 20 minutes late feeding the dogs and they are crying right now. So anyways, I'll finish that tomorrow. I gotta make a couple of coil wires, 2 little ones. And that's it, really. So anyway, I'll show you it tomorrow when it's brighter out. I gotta go feed the dogs. I'll see you in the morning. Good morning.
All right, we're back.
Well, what do we got left to do? A couple connections for the distributor and some coil wires. And I think we'll have an ignition system. So, like I said, last night everything was installed. I painted behind it, of course. Everything's painted inside and out. Started hooking it up. Just gotta make some coil wires, I think. I gotta run a power wire. Probably run that out, poke a hole somewhere over here. Run that down to the starter. The main battery cable on the starter would be probably the best place. But yeah, we should have an ignition system here shortly. I always keep my old spark plug wires and the scraps from when I like to buy the kits that you make yourself because I like to route my wires, you know, nice and neat. So I buy the kits that you make yourself. And I save all those scraps just for this reason. You never know when you're gonna need them. Now, check this out. They always come with these blocks. You can put that in a vise and squeeze it, right? And that's a good way to make your spark plug wires. You know, they give you this little tool. And I did it that way for years and years. Until one day, my buddy Anthony, he's like, "What are you doing?" He came over, he was like, "What are you doing? You know they make a tool for that, right? And it's way easier." I'm like, "What?" He bought me this. If you don't have one of these, I mean, how are you living life? Like I didn't know that this world existed. You must, I don't care if this is $200. Go buy it. It's worth every penny. But you got strippers, you can strip the wire, you know, how you want, right? And then I put a little mark which way is down, you know, which way I want it to point. And then I cut it and strip it with my little handy dandy tool. And then slide it on. You know what I'm saying? Just like that. Now, you take this little guy, you stick him on here, just like that. Oh my God. How do you even compete with that? Seriously. All right, now I just gotta make 2 of these up and we'll be ready. All right, coil wires are done. I was gonna loop it this way and then I thought about it and I was like, wait a minute, the transmission dipstick tube is gonna come up right there. So I looped it that way. Anyways, what do we got left? Just need to hook up the distributor with my little filter guy. So like I was saying earlier, it plugs in line. Your pigtail coming in here, just basically, yeah, pretty simple. Plug it in right there. And like I said earlier, here's a fancy way of saying it. The circuit guard is designed for Unilite, high-fire MBI distributors and conversion kits that experience failures with the ignition modules from voltage spikes. Voltage transients, power surges, voltage spikes are associated with noisy electrical systems from electrical defects such as worn alternator brushes, corroded or oxidized electrical connections, and similar electrical problems. Voltage spikes are clamped and regulated by the circuit guard from damaging the high fire ignition module. All right, just basically what I said earlier. So, yeah. Those Comp 9000 distributors, those Unilite distributors, they are super awesome. But you got to protect them. Anyways, let me find a good place to hide this down there, and we'll plug that in. And basically, I think that's going to just about do it for the ignition system. Oh, I need to run a power wire out, and probably I can hook up the battery cables and stuff. I guess I can do that. All right, I got the little filter box down there stuck to the firewall behind the distributor. The pigtail comes out the side there, plugs in, goes through the box, plugs into the side of the distributor right there. Pretty simple. Can't even hardly see it, really. Then over here we have, basically we're finished. So your pink wire, that comes from the car wiring harness, ignition switch. The pink wire, the pink circuit, is typically 12 volts hot while the key's on and while the key is cranking. That's super important, because there's a lot of circuits like radio and heater, and there's a lot of circuits that are 12 volts switched, but they turn off during cranking. So you want to make sure that your circuit you're using is hot while keyed on and cranking. So there you go. I'm using that as a signal wire. That would have been to the original ignition system, but I'm using that as a 12 volt switched circuit. So that's going to signal the box to turn on. It's also going to signal, I got a little jumper wire right there. It comes around and it goes to my pigtail for my distributor, right? So the brown wire is ground, comes through here, boom. I ground to the stud that's welded to the firewall. So that should be a really good ground. Also my MSD box is grounded here. So I should have a good ground. I got 12 volts switched off of the pink. And then the green wire is the signal back from the distributor. That's your pulse. You get a pulse from that. And that goes to the white wire on the MSD box. And then of course your coil wires are up there on top. And then coil wire. That's pretty much it. The only thing this thing is missing is 12 volts constant, and it needs to be a pretty large gauge direct battery, power supply. So I think the best thing to do here is to come through the firewall somewhere else over here, poke a hole, and then go straight down to the starter. The starter's right on the other side of here. So if you come to the battery cable post on the starter, then that would be a good supply for that. So I think that's about it. I'm gonna pop that wire in, and I can go ahead and jack it up, and I'm gonna go ahead and put my starter wires and cables on while I'm under there, and poke a hole for that cable to come through here. And that's pretty much it. Okay, I popped in a rubber grommet right there and drilled a hole. I'm gonna run me a battery cable through there, come on down to the starter, hook that up. Might as well throw those battery cables in while I'm down there. And those starter wires, might as well hook those up. So I'll get all that done while I'm under there. All right, check it out. We got battery cables, the ground down to the block. And I make sure I use one of those pokey washers so it bites into the metal real good. I get a good ground. And then I'll run the little guy off of here and I'll run it to the frame somewhere. So I'll have a ground to the block and a ground to the chassis somewhere. Then my positive cable, this guy's gonna come off, go through the outside here, run up and over. It's gonna power the horn relay, and the horn relay powers the fuse box. So then the big cable, it goes down to the main post on the starter solenoid like always. And it comes off and feeds that little wire back there, the one that's going through the wall. That's gonna feed the ignition system 12 volts constant. And oh yeah, the little wires on the solenoid, the purple wires to the inside, the pink wires to the outside. And that's it, really. It's all done. We got 12 volts constant right there. So there we go. Well, that was a fun little project. We got an ignition system all hooked up and wired and hidden, and the firewall is nice and smooth. There's no bolts sticking through and nuts and washers. You can't see nothing. Everything's pretty well hidden, and it's real easy to get to if I want to upgrade it later. If I find like a 6AL with a rev limiter or something, I can go ahead and swap out, pull that plate out, swap out the box and plug it back in, and it'll be easy. So I like it. This is the type of little projects that I like to take my time on and do it nice and neat. And I like the result, you know, and it didn't cost me a lot. You know, it's all used stuff I had laying around and some scrap sheet metal, you know. I mean, it's not like I had to break the bank with this, you know, and I think it's going to work good. So there you go. We're getting pretty close. I need a transmission, and you know, I could put most of the drivetrain together, and I need to have the rear end rebuilt. I need to pull the seat out of the shed. I got a bench seat. I was gonna throw it back in there, and I don't know. I haven't been filming it, but my wheels have been turning this whole weekend. What am I gonna do with this car? Like, originally the plan was I was gonna just get it running and sell it, right? But then Sarah said something to me a couple days ago. She was like, well, I kind of need my own race car. And I was like, what are you saying? And so she kind of mentioned that she would like to have her own race car because she will not drive the green Chevelle. She won't drive it. I've tried 100 times. She won't drive it. She'll pull it on and off the trailer and stuff, but she don't like it. Like, there's too many switches and buttons and things going on. She does not want to drive the Chevelle. And she's like, I'll feel, you know, I'll feel too bad if something happens to it. And I'm like, it's just a car. We can rebuild it. She's like, no. But this one, she's like, I wouldn't feel bad if something happened to it. I'm like, what do you mean? She's because it's not like pretty or nice, so who cares? So I don't know. Should we put a roll cage in it and, you know, have Sarah's own little race car? I don't know. So that's been a discussion the last couple days. And then the other discussion was a name for this thing. I was thinking, you know, something came to me today, and I'm just gonna throw it out there. Because it's a 100 series Nova, a lot of people call them the businessman's coupe. You know, they're the bare bones, no frills, no trim, no, you know, they're real basic. They're the cheap model. You know, if you walked into the dealership in 1965, this would have been the cheap model. So some people kind of nicknamed them a businessman's coupe. So I was thinking, you know, no frills, basic, bare bones. It's not pretty. I was thinking, like, what if we called it strictly business? Huh? No? Yes? No? What do you think? What, you have any ideas? Throw them on there. And then what about if I keep it? What if Sarah races this thing? I don't know. Speaking of races, we're trying to get ready for this year's duct tape drags. I would like to bring 4 cars, but Sarah says no. I'm out of my mind. I would like to bring Down and Dirty. I would like to bring this. I would like to bring Oki and park it in the car show again. And of course, I like to run my green car, you know, of course. But I don't know, logistics and, you know, I don't know. We'll see. But what do you guys think? Let us know. And if you don't mind, hit that like, hit subscribe, hit comment, give me a thumbs up, say hi, any of that stuff really, really helps me out. I appreciate it. And until next time, see ya.